Greetings, everyone. I wanted to pop on here. I'm going to put the video on really quickly. I was just having a few tech issues with the camera. I have an external camera, but, anyways, my name is Victoria Huff. I am the founder of thehappyexecutive.com. And tonight, this evening, depending on where you are, it is almost 7 p.m. where I am, right outside of Chicago. We are going to talk about going from feeling invisible to feeling like you are in demand, that you are being noticed. And not for vanity reasons, but for the reasons of being able to help others, which is super, super important. And I hear the fact that many people feel invisible in today's world. Many of the people that have worked with us say they feel invisible before they learn how they can shift their presence, their visibility to become that in demand, sought after leader. Now, I know you've probably heard this before, but that doesn't happen overnight, right? I'm not saying it has to take decades or even years. However, I'm saying that it takes strategy and execution to get from being or feeling invisible to feeling in demand. And of course, when you're in demand, you are getting inbound inquiries. You are not chasing for clients. You are not having to do everything outbound and not getting any inbound leads. And when I speak of inbound leads, I'm not just talking about referrals, because I personally believe that you cannot build a sustainable business on referrals only. We've had many other clients that have come from Fortune 50 positions, and they have really good sized networks. However, when they thought or they planned that they were going to build their side gig or their next adventure, when they thought they were just going to build it based on referrals, they were very disappointed. And the reason is because referrals, like I said, do not build a sustainable business. And most importantly, you can't depend on a referral based business because you never know when they're coming in. For instance, when I had my caregiving agency, there were some people in our community. And when I say people, it might have been people from the church or from a different company. They weren't like individuals per se, but they were individuals representing a company or a law firm. But the thing is, I never knew when they were going to send these referrals. And they didn't know because it depended, quite frankly, on when someone showed up at the church or when someone called in to the church to get some names of potential private duty caregiving agencies. Okay. Or if somebody was planning an estate or called a law firm and said, do you know anyone that has a caregiving agency that could potentially, help my mother or my father? Okay. Because they never knew. Now, what I did uh, to circumvent that was I built relationships with people who were in front of our ideal client every day, like social workers, discharge planners, people that worked at, uh, assisted living and nursing homes. Okay. So that's why, you could not, it's not sustainable to build a business based on referrals. You have to really have, like, you have to be able to build a pipeline to have that consistent flow. Okay. So I do think I got my external camera hooked up again. I'm not sure why it went offline, but it did. So, anyways, I think that I'm good here. Yes. Hopefully, this is good. Okay. Still not 100% sure that that is working like it should be, but this is what we're going to go with. So, good evening, everyone. I am very glad and delighted to be here with you. So, if you are in that category where you feel invisible or somewhat invisible, then what I would tell you is it's important to work on clarifying your message. Okay. Because if you feel invisible, that probably means that people are not seeing or recognizing you for what you are truly known for and for what you can help them with. This could be a board member position, right? This could be your consulting services, your coaching services, your technology services. Okay. So you can substitute that in for your services and, quite frankly, products too. Generally speaking, we work predominantly with service providers. However, it would work in a very similar fashion if you had a product and you felt the product was invisible. Well, we would need to work on clarifying the message, meaning, what does your product do? What does your product or your service, what problem does your product or service solve? Okay. Does that make sense? Okay. So, in order to be seen more, it's super important that you don't post just to post. Like, and what I mean by that is just throwing up a post. Maybe you felt inspired over the weekend by a quote that you read, or you had some epiphany about some personal or professional development. It's super important that instead of just posting to post, that you post to clearly be understood by your ideal audience. Okay, not by everyone, but by your ideal audience. And that's one thing that I have seen over the years where, people made people like people that are looking to be seen, that are looking to be heard, because you have intellectual property that can actually help others to solve their problems. But you cannot just post on anything. Of course, you have to have a full content strategy, and it doesn't have to be complicated, but you do need to have specific content subjects, and those need to speak to that ideal client so that you develop that relationship, you develop that understanding. Okay. Now, third thing is, in order to be heard, if you're heard, you're going to feel more visible, right? All roads lead to that. So if you feel heard, you will feel more visible. In order to do that, you have to start connecting with people. So it does involve some outreach on everyone's part. Okay. Even though you're getting, let's say you're getting some inbound leads. Okay. or maybe you're not, but let's just say that you are getting some inbound leads. It's still important that you reach out to people in the DMs to acknowledge the fact that they commented on your post or they supported your post. Okay. That is super important. Now, that does not mean that if you reach out to people and thank them for supporting your post, or maybe you were going to do a live stream or a live event and they said they were going to show up, that does not mean that everyone that you direct message or DM is going to become your client. Okay. Because really, if you look at it, only 1 to 3% of the people in your audience are ready and looking and, you know, eager or committed to enroll in your service right now or purchase your product if you have a product based uh, offering. Okay. So that doesn't mean that, obviously, you probably know that, but I'm just letting you know that it's important that you have some outbound reach in your strategy. And I think back to when I started in sales, there was no social media. Okay. So my outreach involved cold calling on the phone or in person. So it was feet on the street, and I would walk in different office buildings who would have, or who probably would have our ideal client. I mean, we had some research research books and things like that. Well, when I first started, it was like the phone book, but we had some lists of companies where we could kind of identify like certain office parks may have our size of client. I worked with AT&T. I sold well, when I first started, I sold equipment services, so telecom systems to businesses that were up to about 25 million in revenue. And then I moved from the actual telecom equipment to telecom services. But the whole thing was, it was feet on the street and no social media. So in the world that we live in now, we have many different avenues that we can reach out to people. And if someone, commented on your post or was going to attend your event, that's not purely cold, even though you may not have spoken to them before, but they may be familiar with your content because obviously they acknowledged it. So it would just be a great thing to do to thank them for acknowledging your post, for signing up to attend your event. Okay. So these are things that you would do if you think about how would it be in person if you were hosting an event in person, right? How would it be? Like if you signed up with your local chamber of commerce and you were going to host a business breakfast. Well, probably everybody that attended, you would say thank you, and you would probably send them an email or send them a text thanking them for attending after the event, right? So it's really about shifting your mindset to be like, okay, well, even though we are in an online virtual world, what can I do to make sure that I am valuing people? Okay. And the people in my community, the people that are getting closer to our community, or just supporting posts and offering to even sometimes share your post, or share your event. That's a great, that's just a great compliment. And I really, value and honor people that do that. I don't take that lightly because it takes their time. Time is our most precious commodity. And for them to share it with their audience is really something that should be valued. Okay. So The fourth and final thing that I wanted to talk about today is, really feeling like you aren't invisible, that you are in demand, and that you are sought after, meaning that people are really looking to get to know you. That's a great feeling to have, and maybe it was through some referral, but like I said, you cannot count on referrals, building a consistent business. But what you can do is you can consistently show up and you can consistently clarify your message so that it speaks to your ideal client's problems. Sometimes it's those problems that are in their heads that they haven't even been able to verbalize, but you can speak to those. Okay. That's super, super important. And if you do tend to be more on the introverted side or the ambiverted side, wherever you identify as, you know, uh, that's your quiet confidence that can show up because you don't have to stand there and shout, or you don't have to have a sign, that says, hey, come over here. I mean, I guess you could if you wanted to, but you don't have to. You can lead with that quiet confidence and you will be heard and you will not feel invisible anymore. But like I said in the beginning, it's not something that happens overnight. Now, I know that a lot of us have it's getting kind of dark here, but I know that a lot of us have kind of thought, "Oh, this is like an overnight success story, or this person's an overnight success story." I don't really I in all the years that I've been doing either in corporate or in my own business, I have not found an overnight success story. I mean, there may be some product overnight success stories. I don't know. If you know of one, please do share. But the people that I know or that were viewed as, oh, where did they come from? Or, their overnight success. Those are the people that showed up consistently. They clarified their message so that their ideal client understood what they did and what they offered and how they could actually solve their problems. Like I said, even if they're problems in their heads that they haven't even really been able to verbalize, or maybe they're not completely aware of it yet, they may just have symptoms in their business, on their teams. Okay. But if you are consistently showing up and demonstrating how you can solve your ideal client's problems, then you definitely won't feel invisible any longer. And you will see the results of your determination and your hard work. So, just to recap today, because I want you to be able to walk away with at least one thing that you can say that you learned and you can take action on. Okay. So, the first thing is if you're feeling invisible, then probably would be super beneficial if you took a closer look at your message and clarified that for your ideal client, just like I was saying. Okay. Then if you're looking to be seen more, don't post just to be seen, just to say, okay, I checked the box. Post to be understood so that your ideal client clearly understands what you can do for them. And we want them to feel and know that they can't pass up an opportunity to work with you because you can solve their problems. Being heard, super important, like I was saying. So you want to create that connection. You want to do some level of outreach, even if it's only 10%, or 20%. Maybe, it's 80/20. You say, okay, I'm going to, uh, do 20% more outreach. I'm going to do 10% more outreach. Commit to that. And then make sure that you do that. And the 20% more outreach could just be, I'm going to contact everybody on uh, on on my recent post that supported it or commented on it. And then lastly, to be sought after, it's really about showing up with that quiet confidence. You don't have to shout. You don't have to carry a sign or be on a billboard if you don't want to. But people need to know, like, and trust you. That's not a new mantra. That's been around for as many years as I can remember. And, Dale Carnegie spoke about it. All the sales trainers, Tom Hopkins, many, many of the sales trainers. And that's not just for sales. I mean, anybody that you do business with, affiliates, partners, colleagues, you want to know, like, and trust them. So the best thing that you can do is to create that connection. And if you want to say it in a different way, it's a relationship, right? Even if it is virtual. Now, I do like to meet people in real life. Okay. I haven't met everybody in real life that I do business with or that I've communicated with online and on social media, but it certainly deepens the relationship. You know, Even if the relationship started on social media, you can deepen the relationship when you have the opportunity to meet someone in real life. So if it feels difficult, because I've heard this from many, many different people, and I felt it too, like, you know, especially at the beginning, it's like social media and developing relationships online or virtually or in a Zoom room. It's a lot different than if you're in a boardroom or if you go to a networking event, which I used to get so scared about. My heart would be racing and beating really quickly. And I'd be thinking about, okay, what am I going to talk about? I have 30 seconds or 60 seconds or whatever it was that I had. And then if I went to a meeting where we actually went like round robin around the table, then I would be thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be my turn. So you may feel and have a lot of those same symptoms when you're online virtually, but you do need to put yourself in the seat of and in the seat and in the mindset of developing relationships, because those are real people. Okay. Unless you're having Zoom calls and you're letting in those recorders, which as a policy at thehappyexecutive.com, we do not allow those recorders in unless they have a human that is present. Okay. But if you are allowing those recorders in without humans, then of course, then at that point you're talking to bots. They don't really talk back, right? I mean, they might say something like, I'm here to represent Sarah, but they're not engaging with you. Well, I shouldn't say that because it's probably just a matter of time before they do. But when I did allow those in a while ago, uh, I had trouble trying to figure out who they belonged to or who they didn't, and that's why I decided as a policy we're not doing that, because it gets too confusing. And uh, if you have a Zoom room full of people, it would be great to have interaction. I don't Not a big believer of letting the chat just go and run and be distracting. But if you have a Zoom room full of people, you can even turn the chat off and you can have certain times when people can speak. And has the potential to develop meaningful relationships. I did hosted an executive roundtable a couple months ago. I do it every month, but I had an executive roundtable that I hosted a couple months ago, and there were two people at the executive roundtable, and they were from the same city and state. Like, who would have thought, right? So it was really cool because I, of course, promoted that engagement. I like to ask where everybody is from and reason on why they even felt compelled to show up, because time is our most precious commodity, right? And so it was really cool because they committed, before we were done, they committed to meeting in person, like in real life. So, and look where they met, a virtual room. I had nothing to do with that, like I didn't have it all planned or anything like that, but it just so happened that they were from the same city and state. So things like that happen. If you show up consistently and if you seek to be understood and truly with the intention of developing relationships, and you might say, well, how do you do that if you're looking to learn how to network? Well, try to help people, try to give some advice, or ask them what their biggest challenge is. Obviously, don't give them advice blindly, but ask them what their biggest challenge is. And if the service that you provide can help with that, you can clearly give them some helpful hints or one thing that they could do to help solve that biggest challenge. Or they may say, well, I'm, working on this deadline, and it may have nothing to do with your service. That's okay too. Is there someone in your network that you could introduce them to that could help them solve their problem? Okay. So, just being open to getting to know people and developing relationships, just like you would in a room. If you were in real life with people and someone said that their car broke down, and they had, let's just say that they had a very uh, unique car, maybe it was, involved a specialty mechanic. Like, let's say they had a Jaguar or Jaguar, however you want to explain it or say it. And what they had going on with it was something that really needed, a specialty mechanic, not some place that they could take it and just hope and pray that it was, that the person was able to solve it. Well, let's say that by chance you had someone in your network, maybe you had a Jaguar, but you had someone in your network that was an accomplished mechanic. Well, if you were face to face with these people, I say that you would probably say, I know somebody that can help you. Would you like me to introduce both of you? Those kinds of things. Those kind actions can happen online just like they do offline. But it does require you and us, because I went through the same thing, to shift your mindset a little bit so that even if that person is not in the same, like in real life room with you, maybe they're just you're in the same Zoom room, you can still help them. So I would encourage you to think about those 4 ideas that we talked about today. And I would love it if you messaged me or commented and let me know if there was one key takeaway that you learned today or something that you're looking to commit to. I would love it if you shared it with me so that I can continue to serve you, connect with you, and of course, work to solve your biggest challenges. My name is Victoria Huff. I am the founder of thehappyexecutive.com. We help CEOs and founders to be heard, get seen, and earn more revenue and recognition in our sometimes 3-second world. Have a wonderful evening.